tease my brother and ride our four-wheelers. And he likes to play a lot.
Just like most kids?
Yeah.
Likes to play a lot, likes to talk a lot. Yeah, that's about it.
Well, he's kind of really cool because he can do laughs that I can't really do.
Connor has this thing called Spider-Man hands where he goes like this constantly. So like we'll see him all the time and you'll turn around in the car and he'll go like this. Or he does stuff with his neck where he has a neck tick where he'll constantly like cock his head to the left, and it actually has worn down the bone in his neck from doing it. He has like this face tick, like he kind of does it when he has a laughing tick, and he kind of does it when he laughs, where he squinches the side of his face, which I think is one of the more common things that you see too.
Initially, we thought that it was emotional tics. We had some things going on in our family at that time that were causing a lot of stress. So when we first took him to the pediatrician, we thought that they were, I guess, what they're called, sort of stress-induced tics. But his neck tick was so convoluted and so sort of interesting. It almost looked like an owl, if you can sort of imagine, an owl, moving its head around. That's sort of what he was doing. So one night he was laying in bed next to me, and he was doing it in his sleep, and so I reached over, and I'm kind of like trying to figure out the mechanics of it, and I called his pediatrician, and I was telling him, it's starting to cause him pain in his neck, and I was laying next to him last night, and I was, holding his neck to sort of feel how he was doing. He said, wait, he was doing it in his sleep? And I said, yes. And he said, stress-induced tics, they don't do those in their sleep. That's something else. And so he referred us to a neurologist. We went and took him to the neurologist in Orlando. And we walked in, we sat down, and he came in, he introduced himself. He was very nice, and spoke to us for, probably about 10 minutes. And so finally he said, does he always do that? And we said, what? And he said, clear his throat, sniff, make those little noises. And we said, oh yeah. He said, well, I've been counting. And he's done them about 20 times in the 15 minutes that we've been in here, as well as his, motor tics. And that was when he broke the news that it was his belief that Connor had Tourette's. Obviously he needed to do some other tests. He wanted to rule some things out, but that was what he was leaning on. And really, it was the last thing in the world I expected. I honestly, I don't know what I expected, but I certainly didn't expect that.
Things that make Connor different from other kids his same age are, of course, that he has been diagnosed with Tourette's syndrome, OCD, some sensory issues, dysgraphia, and all those issues kind of combine to cause him some problems in the way that he, I guess, sometimes can communicate with others.
What do you think the hardest thing about having Tourette's is?
Definitely sleep apnea.
What is the sleep apnea?
Sleep apnea is when you have trouble sleeping at night and you barely get any sleep.
And what happens when you don't get much sleep?
Well, I'm tired during the day and a lot of my tics happen.
Okay, what are your tics?
I have this laugh, which is really fun. That was it. And the neck twitch, my hands, and I move my feet, and that's about it.
And what do you think happens when people meet you and they don't know you have Tourette's? Do you think they judge you?
Yes.
What do you think they think about you?
That I'm weird. A lot of my friends, when I told them I first had Tourette's, didn't want to play with me.
I think that when people interact with Connor, not knowing that he has Tourette's, what I see a lot of are people who think that he's just a child who's misbehaving. In their mind, that child won't sit still, that child won't be quiet, they roll their eyes. You know, it's that thought process as a parent. How can you let your child go out in public and behave so poorly? And several times I've said, you know, when I've seen the look, and it's a very blatant, very obvious look, you know, I've said, he has Tourette's, you know, he can't help it. I try to explain a little bit because education is really the key. There are times when Connor himself has spoken up, especially when he had his laugh, which was very, very loud, and, you know, obviously there was something a little off about the laugh. It wasn't just, you know, here's a kid who's really happy, who's laughing. And, you know, people would say things to him like, that's a really odd laugh, or, you know, you're a pretty happy little guy, but, you know, with that sort of quirk of the brow, like, you know, we know something's a little not right here. And Connor would just say, I have Tourette's, and as the months wore on, he became more comfortable with, you know, standing up for himself. I think the thing that hurts Connor the most, the thing that hurts me the most, is when we see other parents who, not knowing what Connor has, but knowing that something is off a little bit, will sort of pull their children away. You know, if we're at the park, or if we're at, you know, somewhere where there's going to be a lot of children, a festival, they will, you know, sort of slowly guide their children away from Connor. And, you know, Connor's very perceptive. He's extremely perceptive for someone his age. And he sees that. And I know that it's very hurtful for him to see that. And I can't fix that. You can't make that go away. But what I can do is help educate people to create more tolerance and understanding. And I think that's really the only thing that you can do.
I think sometimes, honestly, that Connor is very aware that his people may notice his Tourette's syndrome symptoms, like such as his physical tics or his vocal tics, and then I think sometimes he just completely forgets about it.
Since Connor was diagnosed with Tourette's, he's just sort of put a lot more stress on himself. I think it's become much more prominent because once we found out about it, that's when it was at its worst. And so I think he's a little more self-conscious about it. He's definitely more stressed out than he used to be, but I think at the same time he's still happy. You know, he still does the same things that he did before because he loves to do them, and he still talks the same amount that he always has talked in his entire life. And you know, so aside from the stress that it puts on him to try and act normal like every other kid his age, he hasn't held back from doing the things that he loves to do.
I see him as a regular kid. I don't look at it like, oh, he has twitches or he giggles a lot or whatever. I mean, he's normal to me. He's my brother. He has to be.
Do you think people should be afraid of talking about Tourette's?
No.
No?
I mean, it's nothing to be embarrassed about.
If I could tell the world one thing about Tourette's, I would just want them all to know that that you can't control it, that you can't stop. No matter how much you tell someone to stop doing what they're doing, you can't make someone with Tourette's stop ticking. And I think that's such a hard concept for people that don't know someone with Tourette's or don't have Tourette's to comprehend. They don't get that. It's like when you have an eye twitch. They don't understand that it's like an eye twitch, you know? If you have an eye twitch in the middle of class and someone looks at you and said, please stop twitching your eye. You know, you can't force yourself to stop your eye twitching, but it's the same kind of thing, and people just I don't think it's easy for them to understand when they don't know someone with Tourette's. So
The vocal and physical tics are for the most part, beyond the person's control. To try and subdue them actually will make their urge to have a tick even worse. And it doesn't mean that they're any different than anyone else. Just because they may laugh or giggle or cough doesn't mean that they're not having a good time. They're having a great time. It's just something medically that they have and that they have to deal with.
If you know someone that has Tourette's, that's a kid and you're a kid, it's not really that hard. I mean, you can still play tag with them. You can still play hide and go seek. And like me and my friends like to do, have Nerf wars with the Nerf guns, dart guns. So it's a lot of fun. But you really shouldn't treat them different. I don't understand why you would.